Hi everyone, this is Maya Zahira with PsychicProtectionSanctuary.com, and today I wanted to address a question that I get every couple of months. Someone reaches out and asks me this question, so I wanted to go ahead and get on video and answer it for you all, and it has to do with this scenario. A person is working with a spiritual teacher, and as they're working with that spiritual teacher, either in person or over video, the person has an experience where for just a split moment, they see the teacher's face morph into something scary. Some type of scary face. It could be that their face changes or their eyes change. Maybe their eyes turn red or their eyes turn black, or their face looks like there's a demonic figure superimposed over it. Those types of possibilities. And the person is always asking, like, what does this mean? And does this mean that this teacher is not trustworthy? And what's happening with that? So I want to just talk around this idea a little bit. I don't even have any notes for this, so we'll see how clear I can be with it. All right, so there's actually two answers to this. There's one main answer, but then there's another possibility. So I invite you to stay to the end so you can hear about the other possibility. So the main answer that I would give is that if you are working with a spiritual teacher and you, through some type of clairvoyance, even if you just have a tiny bit of clairvoyance, but you get this image of the scary face, or like some other way, you have this face morphing phenomenon. Most of the time, this is going to mean that you are seeing that teacher's true colors. You are getting a sign so here are a couple of subsets. Either your inner guidance is showing you symbolically that this teacher can't be trusted, or so the face isn't literal, the scary face isn't literal, but your inner guidance is giving you the information, this person is not safe. Or you're actually seeing the true colors spiritually of that teacher. Maybe they have entity attachments, one or more entity attachments, one or more entities working through them. Maybe they have a full-on possession. And this is actually really common with, especially, I hate to say it, but it's very common with very well-known spiritual teachers, because as spiritual teachers gain in popularity and fame, then they are more targeted by dark forces for infiltration, because dark forces would like the opportunity to attach to connect with that teacher's whole network of followers. So sometimes the teacher, especially if the teacher doesn't believe in dark entities, there are a lot of New Age teachers who believe that that's not even a thing. Those types of people would unknowingly have negative entity attachments or possession. But then there are some who are willingly calling that sort of thing in knowingly. Okay, so that's possibility number one. That's that whole block of possibility number one, that if you see a spiritual teacher's face morph into something scary, that is a sign that this person cannot be trusted, and I recommend that you don't work with them anymore. And I definitely recommend that, like, if they're doing courses, workshops, or like attunements or initiations or those type of thing, I would not be doing any of that. I would like get out of there. Even if you've signed up for a whole weekend workshop, I'm a big advocate for this based on some of my own experiences in being a student over the years, that even if you've signed up for like a weekend workshop or a whole week retreat, and on day one of this expensive retreat that you've signed up for, you see the teacher's face morph into something that's that indicates that they are non-beneficial, I believe, and it's up to you, but I believe it is worth it to get up and walk out. You don't need any further evidence. And it's worth it to lose your money, because if you stay, you're staying at what cost? What kind of crap are you going to have to clear off of yourself? And I was one of those people that stayed for a whole weekend of hell retreat with, it wasn't the same type of scenario, but it was a very bad retreat. And I had to then pay money to have people help me clear the piles of crap that were glommed onto me after that event. So you may have invested money in some type of event, but it's worth it to just let that money go and just take care of your own safety. So if you see somebody's face, a teacher's face, morph into a demon's face, then that's all you need to know. Okay. This, by the way, I don't want to get too off topic, but this doesn't just happen with spiritual teachers. I've had it happen with people in the past that I was dating, and I was actually seeing entities that were living within the person. So this phenomenon doesn't just happen with a spiritual teacher. You can see beings superimposed over anybody's face. I talked with someone recently who's, I think if I remember correctly, they were out shopping and they saw something superimposed over someone's face. And so it can happen with strangers, it can happen with loved ones, and it can happen with a spiritual teacher. The common question that I get, though, in my role is, what does it mean if I was at this workshop and I saw this happen with the person leading the workshop? Okay. So now let's talk about possibility number 2. This is really important. It's important to know this part, because if you don't, you could be easily tricked. So the other possibility is something else that I've seen quite frequently, and it's that if you personally are dealing with your own entity issue, so this usually, I don't think I've ever seen this with just randomly. I've only seen this happen only when a person has an entity issue. So it could happen other times, but I have not witnessed that myself. If you yourself are in the midst of an entity issue and you are reaching out for help, so it's especially if you're having an issue with one or more demons or jinn, this is very common. So if you're dealing with some powerful, one or more powerful dark entities, and you are reaching out for help, you're reaching out to someone who actually is authentic and benevolent and good, there are situations where that demon or jinn will create a false image, or they'll put an image in your mind's eye that shows that helper or teacher as scary. So they might show the entity might show you an image of that person, that healer, or that spiritual teacher who you're hoping, who you've reached out to or made arrangements with to help you with your spiritual warfare issue. And then you start to get images of that person, but their face looks scary, or their eyes are black, or their eyes are red. But it's actually a trick. You're actually not seeing the truth. And you've been probably watching my videos for a while now, so you probably can follow the logic here. Why would some form of dark forces want to create this false image? Why do you think? It's because they want to trick you and make you afraid of the person who can help free you from your issue with that entity. That entity does not want to be cleared. It wants to stay attached to the person and keep having fun messing with that person and torturing that person and causing that person to suffer. So that entity is going to create a false image to create fear and confusion and make the person afraid of the individual who's in the helping position, the person who is authentic and good and isn't evil, but they'll make that person afraid of the helper. Does that make sense? Okay, so we've got scenario A, the first scenario, where you're seeing a spiritual teacher whose face morphs. And usually that's a sign that, okay, there's something wrong, there's something non-beneficial about this person, and you should not be working with them. And you don't even need to get the opinions of the other classmates. You have all the information that you need. But then how would you distinguish between that and situation B, or the second scenario? And I've been thinking a lot about this because I acknowledge it can get really tricky. But the main thing that you'll be looking at is, you would ask yourself this question to narrow it down. Are you in a scenario where you have an entity issue, especially a demon or a jinn? Are you in a scenario where you have an issue with a demon or a jinn? And is this person that you're seeing the scary image of someone that you're reaching out to help you or support you in getting rid of that entity? If that is true, then you're probably dealing with a false image. It's a trick. If that's not true and you're just attending a spiritual workshop, there was one time when, this was years ago, maybe 15, 18 years ago, there was a lady who was receiving a healing from someone, a man in the community where I used to live. And she opened her eyes. She was in a relaxed state, which is a very intuitively open state when you're very relaxed. She opened her eyes and she saw a demon superimposed over his face. And it was just a regular standard healing session that she was receiving. She wasn't going to him to receive help for her own entity issues. And so that is a clear indication that you should not be going to that healer anymore. That healer has a demonic attachment. And I also knew that that person had a demonic attachment. So it was a confirmation. Okay. So if you are working with a spiritual healer or a spiritual teacher, just in a general sort of way, and you have this imagery come through, then it's probably a sign of that teacher's negative energy or entities. And I know I'm repeating myself, but I just want to make this really clear. But if you are specifically in the scenario where you know that you have an entity attachment, especially a demon or a jinn, and you are trying to reach out, or you're even already in a working relationship with someone who's helping you clear that issue, and you start getting images of your helper, your healer, or your teacher, your guide, you start getting images of them with like a scary imagery, then that is a trick to get you to stop working with them. So I think I'll stop there. If you have questions, if you need clarification, go ahead and share in the comments. And I also would love for you to share if you've ever experienced either of these scenarios. I have experienced both of these, and so have many of my students. But I would love to hear your stories as well. And I'm happy to answer your questions and clarify things if anything was confusing. I hope this was really clear. But I also acknowledge, when you're in it, when you are having that situation, sometimes it's difficult to be certain for sure, like which is it, scenario A or scenario B. Although I don't do personal readings outside of my academy, I can still answer general questions for you, and I'm happy to do so. So also, just a final note, if you want more details on how to get more resources, please visit my website, psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, where you can obtain a free quiz to find out all of the symptoms of psychic attack, and there are many. And psychic attack and entity interferences can happen to literally anyone. Even the positive vibes only people end up having these kinds of situations. So you don't have to be dabbling with the dark arts to draw this stuff to you. It can literally happen to anyone. So I invite you to go over to psychicprotectionsanctuary.com, grab that free quiz, and there's also information about all my books and my online courses and programs. As always, I'm sending you lots of love. Until next time.